You realise this is going to be big.
How big?
Huge. Absolutely huge.
Your failures usually are.
Hello fellow CNC nuts and welcome. Today, Chip and myself will start the build of an office storage cabinet. This will be larger, cheaper and more sturdy than the type you buy in a flat pack kit.
Well, what are you waiting for?
Good point. Let's get started. Now when it comes to making furniture like this, I like to keep things as simple as possible. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. Standard office cabinet's about 1800 wide by about 800 or so wide by, it's just under 400 deep. So what I'm going to do is to keep it as simple as possible. I've gone and brought my MDF already pre-cut down to 1800 long, so I don't need to cut that dimension. I'm going to make it 400 wide, so I don't need to cut anything off that. So that's basically my first two sides done. Now I need to do the dividers for the top and bottom. I'm going to make mine 890 long. I'll cut one from each end, and that way I'm going to keep my two factory ends here. I'll end up with a very small amount of wastage in between, and that will give me my top and bottom. In fact, it'll give me the entire outside of the cabinet with just two saw cuts. I start by measuring 890 millimeters from each end, and then using my circular saw jig, I cut the piece to size. This is the best method I've found for trimming large pieces of MDF. Now over the years I've seen many ingenious methods for holding together custom wood sheets at 90 degrees. Some of the put it together yourself furniture has some quite sophisticated hardware in them, but none of them match up to the method I use, in my opinion anyway, and it's nothing more than the good old stick. I'll be using a piece of inch by inch square timber. It will allow me to screw sideways into the top or bottom, as well as sideways into the sides, and that's going to give me the strongest possible joint. Now the positioning of this piece is critical. It's the only stick that will actually be seen in this project, so it needs to be flush with the edge as well as flush with the two sides. When it comes to positioning the side sticks, I make sure that they're back just a fraction from the edge, about a 64th or half a millimeter. This will allow the sides to be pulled up nice and tight against it. So now I can look at assembling the first corner here. Our top, you can see here now, it's going to be, this overhanging piece here is going to be on top rather than inside the cabinet. I've clamped it here and here. I've made sure it's nice and flush there. I've got the square, and that's not quite square, but that's all right. We'll just tap it around a little bit more. And that's fine there. So now that corner there is square, and since I pre-drilled these holes here, they're easy enough to get to. Because I offset this little piece here in by about half a millimeter, say 64th, it means it will pull up good and tight here. If I'd had it flush, it still would have, but it's a bit better if it just sits back that fraction of a bit there. Nobody's going to see it unless you happen to be quite tall. I certainly won't see it anyway. And now I can move down and put the other two in. With both sides attached to the top of the cabinet, I rotated it and started working on the toe plate at the bottom. This is inset approximately 30mm from the front and will raise the top shelf 80mm from the floor. Well, that about wraps it up for the day. Unfortunately, I've run out and can't get wood.
Only to be expected at your age.
Until the shops open tomorrow morning. I need some to go around under here. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you tomorrow when we'll continue on with our cabinet build. What do you mean by only to be expected at my age?